Hi, it's Anthony here. Some parts of today's conversation may be triggering for some people. If you need help, no matter where you are in the world, search LGBTI Helpline. And remember, it does get better.
There was always a sense that I was different.
And she kind of just reassured me with real life examples that that's not how it was.
It's taken a while to unpack it all because it's a weird thing that have to come out.
I wasn't 100% sure I was lesbian.
And one of my kids fell out in the bikini set. Families are a great thing, but I have one now with my husband being gay because it was on TV when I was growing up.
Shouting 2, 4, 6, 8, gay is just as good as straight.
Precious queer youth are taken care of. I've been mistaken for a man ever since age 20.
And yet back then also you had that freedom to express yourself in these places.
Wait, so like all of these people are LGBTQ?
You're listening to LGBTI Conversations with Anthony Doig. Our next guest on today's show has managed to combine two passions of singing, songwriting and teaching. Growing up in country Australia, he realised very early on being different wasn't safe. But little did he know that he'd come out to thousands of people at the Australian Tamworth Country Music Awards with his partner TJ. Welcome to LGBTI Conversation, Michael Ward.
Hey, Anthony.
So you're not only a great singer-songwriter, you're also a teacher. So what made you go into teaching?
I mean, I literally feel like my life was saved by a teacher. My teacher who, changed my world in a really positive way. And so that was the decision then moving forward. I wanted to impact others in the way that I'd been supported and make it safer. So that's, part of the reason why I do what I do. And all my postgrad work is like student wellbeing and working in those areas, but sometimes it means also telling them not to bounce balls in the classroom.
And the 13 weeks off a year sounds pretty good to me.
It's awesome. It means that I can get on the road and play music, which is the other calling. And again, that was through that same teacher, showed me that means of expression or validated that in a way that made it safe for me to participate because it wasn't safe in my community.
Pretty cool to be able to do teaching, but then you have got these holidays that you can actually go out and do gigs as well. So it kind of works well, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I claim that I'm a better musician because I teach, and I'm a better teacher because I play music. I don't teach music, but there's a symbiotic relationship between the two. I think if you're a teacher and your whole world becomes the school, then you lack perspective and really sometimes that's what kids need, particularly in my role because I work in a pastoral leadership role. So it's a lot of dealing with distressed kids or distressed teachers or distressed family members and helping to just turn the volume down on the intensity of it and then work out strategies for how to support the child. And so that's really important. You can't, if you're coming in red hot as well, then you can't effectively do that. But equally too, there's something really myopic about the experience of being a songwriter. It's literally standing on stage and talking about yourself, being the loudest person in the room. And I think that like the strength of what I do is about observing others and being empathic to their stories and channeling that through the songwriting and the performance, and not being the loudest person in the room is the best way to listen to other people's stories. That's what I mean. I think it's a balancing act.
Do you think being a teenager within school now, as coming from a teacher's point of view, is it easier to be gay, do you think, now than obviously when you were growing up in the 80s in rural Victoria?
That's a really good question. And I think yes and no. I think that number one, I walk through the world with the privilege of being the age that I am in the position that I am in the school community. So I don't get to see that firsthand, what that's like. But I do know within my school context, which is a very traditional school, it's a school which is a single gender school, that there is kids who've expressed to me their experience of homophobia, their experience of feeling like they're on the outside. And when I'm hearing those stories, it reminds me of my story. And so that's that's part of my work as well, is I have to often hold back from responding, the same trauma that I experienced as a child. It's like I need to look after that part of me and not overly identify with that experience. Because to affect change, I think in a school community, you've got to be working with the people who are, presenting as, homophobic behaviour, as well as the kids who are victim to it. So it's about supporting those people, because often we know that often those people who are loudest with their homophobic taunt might be experiencing some confusion about their own sexuality or gender identity. And so it's not about shaming them for that behaviour, but they're helping them to see the impact of that behaviour and work towards creating a safer school community. But also I know as a musician, going out and playing and telling my story, that what comes back to me is that it is still unsafe. So, for example, I played at Woodford Folk Festival around December last year. There's this beautiful thing that they have where audience members can write letters to the artists and post it to them. So at your next gig, you have this letter. And I received this 2-page letter from this family. The letter explained about their child's experience of high school in rural Queensland, how he'd been victim to homophobic slurs every day, how he tried to take his life twice, how he'd just experienced such pain and anguish, and that when they saw me tell my story, it was this complete identification with it. It's like that's exactly what our child's experience is. So they sent their son to see me play, and there was lots of tears and them feeling validated in their experience as well. And that's what prompted them to write the letter, thanking me for sharing that story because it was Jack's story. There's a part of me that would love to think that we know better, that we can do better, that there are better strategies in place to protect queer young kids. But I know from those stories, and that's not the only one that I heard across that weekend, that there are still kids in parts of Australia who do not feel safe.
Wow. And I think it is pretty cool that obviously your students know that you're part of the LGBTIQ plus community because of your songs and the great work that you do out there anyway. So do you think they feel more comfortable coming to you and having that conversation, knowing that it's a safe spot, not just like, well, when you were going to school, you would have never gone to a teacher, the same as myself, and there's about 10 years between us, and actually said, hey, I feel this way?
Yeah, I mean, you can't be what you can't see. So I think that that's the reason why visibility is important from my perspective in both parts of what I do. It's not appropriate for me necessarily to talk about my sexuality openly with students as it would be for a straight teacher to talk about their sexuality with students. It's not necessarily relevant, but kids do know, as you say, that who I am, and there's posters all through my house room. I wear a rainbow pin. I'm making it very, very clear who I am in the community as a role model. And that has led to a number of kids feeling safe to talk to me about their experience of homophobia or to talk about coming out with me. And that's a position of privilege that I hold. Working with kids is a really delicate balance. You've got to be careful about not projecting onto them, about letting them be whoever they are to be. And so I'm careful about that in saying that, I'm someone who has training in student wellbeing, but I'm not a school psychologist, and I'm not someone who is qualified to lead them down any path. My only job is to keep them safe and to let them explore and to let them be who they are. Now,
talking about your own coming out story, it's out there in itself. It involves Tamworth Country Music Awards. Your partner, TJ, tell us about that.
Sure. Well, I mean, it was, I suppose I had always identified as being bi, and so I was in straight relationships, so I'd never had that experience of having to be necessarily out about who I was. But on a deeper level, I probably had lots of internalized homophobia. And a lot of that was fear, especially in rural areas, because my own experience of growing up in rural Victoria was that it was very unsafe for me to be there. But it became clearer to me that it wasn't that I was bi, did identify as gay, and it was not fair for me to be in the relationship that I was in. So I had fallen in love with TJ. We'd had this relationship, and it was like, okay, time to make this really clear to everyone who is a fan, everyone who is a colleague in that area, in that world, who I am, and I'm proud of who I am. So I've been nominated for a Golden Guitar Award, which is this really big deal. There's like 10,000 people who turn up to this awards event. It has a big red carpet event where, you know, there's people who take photographs for various publications, and it also is televised on ABC and stays on iView for a period of time as well. So in lots of ways, it was a very, very public kind of way of me coming out and that was the dream, to walk the red carpet with this man that I love. And regardless of whether I won the award or not, to have him there by my side and to celebrate that with him.
Had anyone done that before at the Tamworth Country Music Festival? Do you know?
Well, we're lucky that we have the wonderful Becky Cole as really a pioneer in that space, and she'd walked the red carpet with her partner before. It's a different experience for gay men, and so there hadn't been, particularly in the type of field that I was in, because I've been nominated for, you know, Male Artist of the Year and, you know, Album of the Year, and so in that kind of space, there hadn't been someone who'd, you know, walked the red carpet before, so it was a new thing. But we were on tour in the lead up to Tamworth, and 5 days before the Tamworth event, TJ and I were both diagnosed with COVID. So we were stuck in a space in Bundaberg, a long way away from Tamworth, unable to get there. And I was pretty devastated, not that I was not there to accept an award, but because I really wanted to walk that red carpet with him. And so we did this photo shoot where they didn't have a red carpet, but they had brown rugs at the place where we stayed.
Close enough.
Yeah, so we had a brown rug event and took photos of ourselves in these amazing nudie suits that we had for the event. Took these photos and posed for them and had a bit of fun. And when you're absent from an award like that, you have to record a thank you speech in case you win. And so we recorded it, and then I thought, oh, well, I'll just be cheeky. And in the recording, introduced TJ and showed the pictures of us in our nudie suits and sent it off. On the night of the event, while we were watching it on the live stream, I won. And they played the video, and it was Chad Morgan, who was like nearly 100, introducing me, and there I am, the only person who took his partner on stage with him, and thanked my boyfriend, and so that was how I came out publicly to the country music community.
What was the reaction?
Love. Just nothing but love.
Wow.
And it was pretty amazing, because I think all of us had that feeling of coming out, that first of all, it happens a lot. Like, it's not that you come out once, you come out a lot. And it's also the type of experience where you have to battle a lot of voices in your head. There's a part of you that feels like it's going to be unsafe. Just that feeling of like coming out, just like it's terrifying. And you kind of got to speak out against all of the voices in your head that said you've got to keep it secret. Otherwise, someone will hate you or hurt you or leave you or both. So standing on that precipice, making that really clear, and just to get an avalanche of messages of love and support was really beautiful. And in January this year, TJ and I got engaged, and we had about 800 messages on Facebook alone. It was just overwhelming love and support. So yeah, it's been beautiful.
And it must have been pretty nerve-wracking too, because you pre-recorded it, so you didn't even know if you were going to win. So therefore, sending it into the world and just waiting. So you didn't, even if you changed your mind, you couldn't do anything about it. It was out there.
Yeah, but it was also like I said, at that point, it was the devastation was that I'm not going to get a chance to say this as publicly as I want to. And so it was more joyful, I think, when it finally occurred. And we know that like coming out is different for every person. And for some, it's not necessarily safe to come out, depending on where they live and who they're living with. But at some point, it becomes something that is right for you. For most of us, it is a time when it becomes the right time. And it was my right time. So it was beautiful when it happened.
Yeah, you're right. Get to a point and you're like, I can't live with it anymore. I've got to be myself. And I've spoken to people who are in their 90s and came to that conclusion. So it's never too late. You can be 16 or 99. You can always be true and come out, and you can find a safe place. And there's plenty of services out there, and there's plenty of great people like yourself who can help you. So there's the help.
Yeah, and there's a beautiful Odette's book, Out of the Shadows, there's this beautiful story of a man in his 70s coming out, and he was close to death, but it was that he needed to tell his story finally. But I do want to acknowledge that for some, especially young queer people in rural parts of Australia, it's not necessarily safe in that moment, and that is okay. That is okay for them to do whatever they need to do in that moment. And as you say, as long as they also know that there is someone out there who will make it safe for them. And that's kind of what I was trying to say, in my song, We Are Here. That was the message that I wanted to put out. It might not be safe for you yet, but we are here. We are waiting. You are loved. At some point, you will be able to be heard with love.
And I did want to speak to you about that. The song you wrote, your new single, We Are Here.
Which is stories about coming out and love, because the whole record is driven by this new relationship and by my experience of trying to deal with the shame that I was taught as a child and moving towards pride and self-love and being able to then fully love somebody else. And We Are Here was the lead single, because that was one of the hardest songs that I've written, because I wanted to honour these heroes from the past who'd made it safe for me to be able to stand on the stage virtually of the Golden Guitar Awards and to speak my truth. But there was a long history of gay men who had made sacrifices and, lived and spoken out against social convention and lived their truth. And it's their example that makes it safe for me. But it's also a song that's a statement about where I want to position myself as contributing to a world which is safer for young people as well, so that my voice is part of that ongoing speaking our truth, speaking against the way in which people have tried to shame us.
So your journey to becoming a singer, or should I say storyteller, I suppose they kind of cross over there a bit, don't they?
Yeah, singing for me was something that was therapeutic. I had such a terrible experience in high school, and the only thing that kind of made it okay for me was walking around the back paddock singing. And I kind of been reflecting recently about, I found a copy of Cyndi Lauper's She's So Unusual in a secondhand record store. I was like, oh my God, that record had such an impact on me, because he was this kind of outsider singing. And I remember walking around the back paddock singing, Girls Just Want to Have Fun. And it was like, it just gave me such joy. And so, yeah, singing still feels therapeutic for me, that there's the physical sensation of my voice resonating in my body, of being able to speak out, because for so much of my childhood, I kind of felt like I was silenced. And at the same time, too, there is a working through of ideas, an expression of who I am through the lyrics, through the songwriting. And then there's this beautiful, which is happening more and more, especially through, as I start to share these songs from the new record, as people validate that by saying, that's my experience too. I hear you, you're not alone. And there's something so beautiful about feeling like you're part of a community. We talk about the queer community, and sometimes we have really vivid manifestations of that. Like here in Victoria, Big Pride is such a beautiful day, and you feel like you're a part of the community then, but also just to have others come to you I played a folk festival in Creswick recently, like a tiny little town, and these people coming up to me and telling me how that was their story or their uncle's story or their child's story, and how much that makes you feel connected and not alone. It's so powerful.
And also just to listen to a song that the lyrics are made for you, a person of the LGBTI community, because so many songs out there, they may be not out, or they may be out, but they still sing the traditional female-male verses. To be able to do that in your lyrics, I think that's very powerful within itself.
Yeah, Small Town Boy for me growing up was like one of those ones. I heard myself, my desire represented, and it was so, I felt really seen in that song, and was something also initially, because I wasn't ready to accept that, it was so unsafe for me to be out when I was younger. It was also something that I rejected initially, and it becomes something now. Like, you put Small Town Boy on, I am the first on the dance floor. So,
it's a good song.
It's a great song.
Was there something there that in your songwriting you were trying to say, I am gay, I am here. Like, for instance, the song Mary Lou, the words in that, listening to that, it's like you were almost screaming to saying, you know what, I'm a gay man here and, you know, I can sing, don't put labels on me because it's okay to be me. But within the 1980s rural Victoria, that wasn't going to happen.
Yeah, I always identified as being bi, so I was always kind of clear with myself and with my then partner about who I was. I think that though songwriting sometimes was like almost a game of chicken, where through the songwriting process things would come into your head and it's like, do I dare myself to say this truth? And for me, like, because I generate an income through teaching, and so music has to be authentic. It has to be an authentic representation of who I am. I remember I was writing a song, The Asphalt and the Oval, which is about my experience of homophobia as a child, and partially do a bit of experimentation and improvisation when I vocalise. And I vocalised the line, Joe Gray used to say that I was queer. And it was true, and it was also terrifying. It came out of my mouth and I literally blushed. And it was, how can I not say this by having such a visceral experience to this song? I had a similar experience when writing Mary Lou as well, because again, it was this older man calling me Mary Lou because I was dancing when I was 4, and I still felt that shame. It's like, no, I have to give voice to this. I have to. I think underlying all of that too was the shifting that was happening within me, where I was realising the extent of how I had been repressed through homophobia and being taught that the danger was me and who I was. And unpacking and unpicking that took so long. And music, the therapy of songwriting for me, was integral in that unpicking.
So who inspired you to start singing, and what artists out there do you look up to now?
Dolly Parton. Like, how could it be anybody else? I mean, what a legend. I grew up listening to Dolly Parton, and it was a case of, you know, learn to love country music or jump out of a moving vehicle, because it was just played in the car all the time. She just told these stories about growing up in Tennessee as poor as I was poor, as being an outsider as I felt like I was an outsider. I mean, Coat of Many Colours felt like she had seen me. So that was kind of the way in which she told a story that had an emotional sting in its tail, was what inspired me. In more contemporary ways, you know, Brandi Carlile is someone that I really love, and particularly in the world that she's living in, I just continues to inspire me. And if you've been able to listen to Brandi Carlile's The Joke and get the whole way through it and not cry, there is something emotionally wrong. It's one of the most powerful pieces of music. I was inspired. I continue to be inspired by those songwriters out there, particularly in that old country world, like Jason Isbell, Brandi Carlile, and Dolly Parton. In 78 is still making music.
And I think there's something special about putting lyrics on a page and telling a story and doing it quite well. And there's not many new artists out there that I can kind of think that does that. One does come to mind, and she's been everywhere at the moment, and everyone knows who she is Taylor Swift. I think she's probably a modern version. She can tell a story really well, and I think that's probably coming from her country and Western background as well.
Agreed. But don't talk about the war. I mean, TJ and I were still hoping right at the last minute to get Tay-Tay tickets, but there was just no way. So I'm still devastated by that.
Unbelievable. You could have had all the money in the world and you'd still miss out. My partner, he got them and he paid $900 and I nearly passed out. And I was like, I'm out.
We had friends who had the $65 restricted view tickets, and they were standing next to people with the $900 tickets. So, I don't want to kind of start wading into the economics of that. But what I love is within our lifetime that women were just not seen as being stadium worthy, and now this is the biggest artist on the planet. So amazing. And as you say, leads with her vulnerability and leads with stories that invite us into her world. And it's so beautiful, so inspiring.
So talking about the country music industry as a whole, are they progressive and moving forward? Are they stuck? Are they going backwards? Where do you think they stand at the moment with the whole LGBTIQ+?
Well, the community is made up of people, and the people that I know, and many of them are very close friends, are deeply, deeply supportive. My producer, Shane Nicholson, is, that I think that there's about 5 queer artists that he's worked with, including me, and he is a deeply faithful friend and great ally. Recently, I was invited by the CMAA, the Country Music Association of Australia, to be part of an inclusion subcommittee, and I'm really passionate about LGBTQI plus rights, and so I was championing that. And so we've recently just put together a PSA to promote Ida Hobbit. And so we've got people like Becky Cole and Troy Cassadaly and Shane Nicholson all speaking about the strength and resilience young queer people and people in rural areas who've experienced harassment and discrimination because of their sexuality or gender representation. And we speak out against that, and it's so powerful. It's one of those moments where you're kind of looking at your friends talking and they're saying something so important that I never thought that I would hear country musicians in Australia say and do, and just promoting it so proudly. So I'm really excited for that message to come out, and I love that I'm part of that community that does want to instigate change, because we have, as country musicians, a unique voice in rural communities. We kind of famously are, telling stories about rural Australia and also about the strength of those in rural Australia. And there's some incredible strength and resilience shown by queer people in rural Australia. So proud that the CMAA is on board with that.
So it seems that your journey has all tied together into your new single, We Are Here. We've always been here and we always will be. And whether it's in country music, in rural Australia, in teaching, wherever, we're here and we're not going away.
No way.
So we like to ask all our guests this question. If you could go back and tell your younger self anything, what would it be?
I'm feeling like I'm on an episode of Drag Race right now, so thank you for asking that question. That I would have to say, what's happening to you now is not your fault. Who you are is not shameful. One day you will find the love that you're looking for. You are enough.
And you're going to bring out great music that everyone's going to love and help people along the way. And
oh, that's beautiful. Thanks.
Also, when is the whole album coming out?
The single We Are Here is already out and available on streaming services, and I love the video that we made for it, so hopefully people check it out.
So where is music videos these days? Do you think they're still as popular as they were in the 70s and 80s?
For me, I actually see the music video as a way of collaborating with other artists and telling the story a different way. I work with actually an ex-student who is an editor and a friend of mine who is a beautiful cinematographer. And we've kind of made the last 4 or 5 videos together, and it is such a joy. I love kind of thinking filmically. I'm kind of in a luxurious position where I actually don't care whether or not it's economically feasible to do it. It's something that I get to do for the joy and love of it. But I know, because of the comments that come up on those videos, how much it does impact people to have that visual representation of a song.
I love watching video clips. They put so much work into them that they're just a little movie in themselves. So it's
absolutely.
Don't even listen to the song. You're just like, wow, this is so cool. And some of them are completely left of field to what the song's about anyway.
Yeah. Troye Sivan videos, I love all of those. Ariana Grande's new album has got some really great videos attached to, and Olivia Rodriguez, love them. But for me, it's still, Brandy Carlisle, check out The Joke. It's such a beautiful video. The album Beauty and Truth is out on the 21st of June, and that's through Compass Brothers Records. So if you're old school and still own a CD player or a record player, you can do it that way, or it's on all the streamings as well.
And we'll put all the details in the show notes so it makes it super easy to go get the new album. And Michael, thank you so much for coming on LGBTI Conversations today. It's been a fantastic ride.
Thank you so much.
I'm here with Alexander, fighting for the empire, leaning on the general by my side. I'm here with Leonardo, taking up the Renzi, dreaming of a body